So now I'm realizing that maybe God didn't intend for humanity to die to begin with, and meant to just create beings that could be like them, or her, or him, and create. And I had the idea that humanity was originally just females, and what happened with Earth was the creation of the male, of masculinity. And it's why so much sin is correlated to man, like men in general, is because it's their nature is completely independent of every other preceding point in history of the universe. And that's why I think on Earth, at least, they're designated as to work, is because their nature is completely made and suited for this environment. It's like, and they might not function well in other areas, such as with maybe like emotions or getting along with people or whatever, but that they were made originally, I think, to do something other people couldn't. But also, with their nature of being a complete opposite, it also made them completely vulnerable in their physicality. That I think what makes men different from women is that men are physically very fragile compared to females, which you would think they're not because of their muscular structure and everything, but everything about the earth is based on females, of like the earth itself and everything. So to say females refers to everything on earth, like nature, and just the male themselves. And it's typically why I think females are the ones who pick things in the house or whatever. It's just like they can correspond with their environment at a level that men cannot. And what men do have, though, is their will, which is found in the iron in the blood. And it's very different. It's not that one is better at other things than another or anything like that, but they're different. So it's not made like one is inherently better and more valuable, it's just that they're very different. And even if physically they don't look very different, their feelings are very different because of that. But anyways, the point why I came up here to say this again was that I think Satan, or the devil, was the one who willed for this to all be an experiment, basically, to create a cure for sin or disease. And so that's why Satan tempts people. Is Satan doesn't want to kill everyone. Satan wants to learn from everyone. The purpose of Satan, which is represented by the apple, is the acquisition of knowledge. So the reason why it's so dangerous to have that desire for the acquisition of more knowledge is because humanity in its immortality doesn't need that. That's not a human need. The problem is when we see that as a need, that's a product of Satan. And I think that's why all of this does have to do with knowledge, is that the very reason Satan had a problem with humanity to begin with was because Satan wanted to turn the earth into a method to find out how to cure this darkness of this disease. Because if you think about it, Satan wouldn't want to lose control over the earth. Satan would want, like, if Satan, the reason Satan incited all of these things with humanity to happen, it would be in a very controlled environment where Satan has control. It's not chaotic where people are violent and can do anything they want. If you notice a characteristic about Satan, you'll know that it's about control over very deliberate actions, which is why very deliberate people can be very susceptible to satanic attacks with knowledge, and why knowledge can be so dangerous is that I think Satan is a female figure, but also God is a female figure too. So another thing is that Satan would want, I think, to find a way to end this darkness of what is called sin. Satan herself doesn't have, I think, sin, but can use it against people. And I think wants to find a way to remove sin while still establishing control for themselves of the earth, so that they can find, I think, a hidden truth which is found in this darkness, which is what I'm finding and have found first, is the arcanes of, let's say, Erizar. So there's this idea that maybe this satanic figure imagined themselves as being that one person that Erizar was going to give their powers to. So the thing I've noticed about interactions with Satan in my life, of this control, is that somehow, based on my interactions, Satan actually acts more like a female than a male, based on my real interactions of, like, thoughts in my head, the despair happening in my family. It's always based on emotions. And it's like everything is about emotions. So I'm thinking this figure is a very emotional figure. And I'm thinking that this person is I don't know. I think maybe I almost feel like they changed in a way. It's very hard to say. I feel like, based on what I've noticed with reality happening now, with, like, the creation of age, where people are, their arcane is intentionally meant to die, which, you know, wasn't made by God, because God didn't intend for people to be made to live very short lives, is that their arcane for humanity is meant to live about 60 or 80 years or so. They're actually, that's why they die, is because their bodies are literally meant to die. But it says in the Bible they're not, and that people weren't made that way. So that's the current arcane seems to have been made by someone else, which could be this satanic figure. And I'm thinking maybe the giant surgeons of this technology now, and all of this media and connections to the other worlds, maybe establishing that through the internet or whatever, is, I think, a couple of things. Is one, this disease that exists, I think, that originally was meant to be contained and studied, has gotten so powerful that the entire control of the earth could be jeopardized, so that everything could be ruined. Meaning in the perspective of both God and Satan. The second thing is that humanity has long been evil. Most people generally have been evil. So this satanic figure with tempting people, whatever, even though they're not good, they were evil, it still seemed like they identified themselves as good, even if other people didn't think of them as the same way, which would mean that they by themselves are a real person and not a disease, which would make me think that Satan isn't a metaphor, but is actually a real person. And also the thing is, with the sudden amount of knowledge I found from other people, all of this knowledge being presented in media through this technology, and all of these new technologies that could be used to access potentially other realms and worlds, I think seem to indicate that whatever major power played in the world has actually shifted. Meaning that it could be possible, I'm not saying definitively it is, I can't trust anything yet, that this satanic figure actually changed their mind. And what I mean by that is, they did create many of these things, like maybe the ability to reproduce in humanity, their necessity for food, and things like that, the qualities similar to animals that they didn't have before, when they were more like stellar beings, which they desire to be now but aren't, like related to stars. And I'm thinking, based on what I've noticed through studying history, is that around the time after World War II, there seems to be a major change of heart in some way. Meaning, like, there were a couple of things. Is one, the threat of losing the entire planet, but also the sudden influx of technology and the knowledge that actually could be used for restoring humanity. And all of the new related genres of horror that were related to witchcraft, but now are just so common that everybody watches a horror movie or video game or something, and it's so common, which is something that could seem to only be understood by a very dark figure that understands hell itself. Seems to me that this character actually is corresponding with God, meaning that Satan and God actually work together, but it's only happened in a very recent amount of time. So what I'm thinking is that a couple things. Is that, one, the presentation of God could still be a single entity, or originally was, but could be comprised of many separate entities from different regions of maybe reality. So like a reality outside of reality. So like multiple gods comprising of what we know as the Christian God. And also that the satanic figure, excuse me, could have been more like a collaboration of multiple people personifying themselves as the same person. And part of the reason for that would be the anonymity, however you say it, of not being identified by humanity, that many of these key elements of the world were artificially created, even though God wants people to know it's artificially created because God made it, which is what glory to God means. But so the satanic figure, at least previously, didn't want people to realize the world was artificially created, or wanted humanity to replace God. So that's the thing that could be the confliction, is that maybe the entire time the satanic figure didn't want to just study humanity to purify this parasitical darkness that seems to be controlling much of the earth now, related to the sun, but also like a sun parasite thing I've been studying, which is horrifying, but also for humanity to be better, in their perspective, to be better than God was. So they actually might be trying to bring up humanity into these beings that could replace God. So then there's the conflictionist, because people could technically do both at the same time. That's why people are so confusing, is they could easily be like do both at the same time without even realizing it. So the problem with people is that they're not aware of this going on. So you can't really know if they would pick a side or not, because they don't even acknowledge any of it exists, which is something that the older historical Satan did, I think, want for humanity to create their own reality that isn't God's. But also that now is the reason why there's all of this interference with the dream world. And humanity is accessing these godlike arcane elements, and perhaps even affecting other parts of the universe or other universes without even intending to. And the thing is like, if a person is aware of that, like, what side would they pick? It's like, if there is a side, maybe it's just collaborative now, if that the world is in such a state of emergency that to say there is a side seems to be this illusion of choice, that it's like we're in a house that's on fire, and it's like I'm not going to give myself the illusion that like any of the choices I can make have any meaning except one choice, which is get out of the house, which is burning and on fire. It's like, it's not the time to really choose. It's not a time of morality. It's more of a time of survival. And it's not because there's the need to compete with other people to, like, such as like if everybody was starving and we only had so much food. It's like, it's not that type of situation that I think is affecting the world right now. It's more of this mass presence of disease that is affecting everybody equally. And because of that, it's like it's much more vital than whatever squabbles that people have over should I believe in God or should I just do whatever I want. It really doesn't matter right now. What matters is the emergency of getting out of this hellfire, which is really this highly radioactive state that the Earth is developing over its massive stellar parasites, interference with other planet atmospheres because of all of this radio wave technology, and all of the anger is still on Earth because of the existing wars, because of family obligations, which is, I guess, is just patriotism, and the rage of slavery, of corporate slavery or whatever. It's like of just having to do things for other people that you don't like. Is like, there's so many things going on right now that I think that personally I wouldn't choose for it. Like, hypothetically, if there was a way to just end all of this now, like the fastest, most efficient way I would pick is like what I've found with treating diseases, or like having a friend that needs help, is that you can't help people if you need to be helped. I think that's how it works. It's like all you risk is falling down with them, or I think just like, it's hard to think. What I would choose now, like to fix this, if there was a way, like a divine way to fix this, I would choose of a mass overhaul of authority, which would be in a monarchy. And that's, in Christianity, that was the point, is that everybody acknowledges God is king. And the problem with that, with humanity, with conceptualizing that, is hypothetically, if it turned out that humanity was a council of people, I mean, God was a council of people and not just one single entity, then it wouldn't be a monarchy, it would be a council, which is different. And that council, if they did agree to a monarchy, would have to choose a member of themselves to be that monarchy, or someone else who is separate from that council. So I would, even though in science normally people talk about with war being the greatest motivator for science, where like the greatest inventions were found because of war. All of the research I've done with inventing things has been in the least competitive environments possible. And which doesn't necessarily mean that the person who would be chosen for monarchy isn't competitive. It's just that they would be so much better at it that it's practically not a competition. Is that what I mean by that is that what I found, like with art, for example, is that I've rapidly increased my ability to draw when I didn't ask what people thought about what I did. I didn't ask for people's help. I didn't watch what other people did. I learned from my mistakes, and I kept it private to myself, which is the point of a monarchy, is that if you don't have to have a meeting every time a decision needs to be made, people don't have to know why you do things, you don't have to explain it, and you can just do it without question, have it done without question, then that's the most efficient way to do things. But obviously, who would be chosen for that would be affect whether or not that's that even wise to have a monarchy to begin with. So the thing is with that, what I would do, like hypothetically, to fix like the earth, if there was a way, is just to make a very simple way, is like there are these arcane figures of humanity that can determine every physical or metaphysical thing in the human world, the earth. What I would suggest is, or like hypothetically, is you don't base the choice of monarchy on the entirety of the earth itself, just on what you would use to reach the solution, which would be the arcane figures. So I think you would choose who would best be qualified for being a monarchy figure for the arcane figures themselves. And the thing with that is that with a monarchy, even if they have total control, it could only be in a very specific area. So that could mean they don't make choices based on other civilizations or other regions outside of wherever they have to work with. And that would mean that the monarchy would be chosen based on the person who would have the ability to actually not necessarily use the arcane, but make choices of how they would be used in relation to the earth. And since it's based on it's not solely based on pure circumstances, but there are obviously factors that it would be based on also who has the ability to do it. Is like, hypothetically, if someone might be very wise, but they might not physically be able to actually know what's going on. So they can't do that realistically, even if they might be the best choice. If they had access to more knowledge, if that knowledge isn't attainable, then they might not be the best choice. Then what would be the best choice, hypothetically, in the interference with the physical and metaphysical realm, where everything naturally isn't based on, it couldn't be based on knowledge itself, because it's so, it takes so long to develop it. I think you would want to choose a figure who has very strong motives that are completely unrelated to whatever is going on with the disease or whatever is happening on Earth itself. So someone with a very strong motive that's completely independent of curing, let's say, the sun from the disease, reducing the radiation on Mercury, and killing the massive amounts of parasites on the dwarf planet Ceres. So it's like, what would those motives be? Is honestly, it could be something that's even selfish. It could just be, not saying this is selfish, I'm just saying it could be. But it could be like they're a figure who just wants control over Earth. It's like, it could be that simple. It's like, it honestly, with the state of peril, like the state of the world is in now, motives usually matter, but in a state of peril, it really doesn't matter. It just matters who can do it or not. And that's why it's in literature, like with during the kings and queens, like in fairy tales, there was always this idea of, if this knight, whichever person can complete this task, will be given this great honor. So like whoever's foot fits in the shoe, whichever person kills this dragon, whichever person can solve this riddle, that person is chosen to be the monarchy figure. That's what I've been trying to lead to. I've just had a lot of thoughts in my mind. So the point is that the person could be given a monarchy, maybe with how it would work. Instead, that person will be given a monarchy position, such as maybe control over the Earth, based on their ability to cleanse the world of those issues. But the difference is that that would be competitive. Whereas if you chose the opposite, such as a competitive environment, based on predating that, such as a competition, somebody wins, and whoever wins that unrelated competition would be the authority figure for resolving the issues with the planet and having control over the Earth again. So the reason that this is even brought up to begin with is that I personally believe in the existence of many different gods. Whether or not I worship them or not, I don't really know, but I believe in the Christian God, but I also acknowledge the belief of deities like Hecate and Morgan, and the Nordic gods like Zeus, things like that. Like, I believe that they're real. But the thing is that if the Earth's consciousness is used to form the physical reality, then while I've been talking about the interference of that consciousness, such as being manifested by disease, as leading to all of this death and decay in the world, which would be bridged to the sun. So maybe it's the sun is the consciousness of the Earth, and the sun has parasites, so the Earth is affected by that. But even if it's a lesser degree than the sun itself. But the point is that if you resolve this issue with the diseases, then there would be this mass opening for some divine power to come in and manifest own and allow its consciousness to merge with this single entity, a person. So one concept related to that is of the Bible, which is like, I give this victory to God. So it's like, I give this thing I have that is merged with my consciousness and will, and I give it to God. So when they do that, something they own that's separate from God becomes God's and in God's control by them giving their token to God, or tribute. So in the Hunger Games, of being tribute for your district. And except with the Hunger Games, the tribute is the person themselves, not an object or something they have. So the point of that is that there would be this mass opening, hypothetically, with this disease removed. And what I found based on humanity is that with all of these ideologies and people clashing over politics, I used to not think anything of it, that it was a waste of time. But I realized that what they're doing is they're making normal people do all of the physical work and not really doing anything themselves, but they're acting like parasites in that they're trying to access the root core of these arcane figures to be these godheads for the entire earthly realm. So those people who just talk about politics but never do anything to help anyone, and who have no real like physical power, but like will criticize you on everything and try to tell you your reality, which is like what abuse is. Those are the people who are like, you go do all of the cooking, you go do your job, you go earn the money, you do whatever. I'm going to focus all of my time on trying to access these root arcane things that could lead to my entire reality existing on like a mere thought. And those are the people who sit and just on their computer all day and just are on BuzzFeed, whatever, just reading news articles, telling everyone what they think, not caring about anyone else's reality. And those people are the problem. And I don't like those people. And I actually, part of my job is, I think, to metaphysically try to find a way to stop their realities from actually existing. And it's very hard because nobody's helping me and I don't get paid. And nobody even believes anything I say. So the thing with that, with the competition thing that I'm talking about, is what humanity doesn't realize is that they're far too weak to actually manifest the arcane themselves. And the whole time it was impossible for them to do it. But the problem is that the hive mind of the parasitical disease they inhabit possibly could. So in reality, the only way for your supposed ideas to work is what was traditionally known as Satanism, but now is really just merging with the hive mind of the disease which is you become purely physical, deny the existence of the metaphysical, and allow this disease to take over your body. Your ideologies and desires merge with it, and you do everything it says. And it's just animal instinct. And it's called sin. That's what sin is. And the problem is that everybody on the planet who sins can collaborate to work together to take over these arcane figures. So, based on what I've studied, is that there are people who, without even realizing it, are stopping these people. And apparently I think I'm one of them, but if that happened, then everybody on the planet would die. And it could spread to other universes. So obviously it's a dangerous situation. And you can't solve that by hypothetically everyone dying, because it isn't the people themselves, it's the sun. And if you hypothetically blew it up, it would turn into a black hole, which would allow it to teleport to every other black hole in the universe, which would mean it could spread everywhere. So there isn't a way to actually get rid of it unless you actually heal humanity. And I think the disease itself would know that, because it actually encourages some forms of health in people. It wants them to live longer so that it can feed on them longer. But so the thing is, what I would do hypothetically if I had the authority to actually do anything to stop this immediately, and then I'll end the video, is I would realistically, I've learned through metaphysics with studying everything, is that a very large mass of metaphysical, like dreamworld materials, or ideas, or thoughts and memories, can only manifest into one thing at a time, and that is our choices. So our choices are just every ounce of dream world energy we have channeled into a single mass of just dark energy. And what you would want to do, what I would do, is try to create a real physical environment where that place can actually merge and allow your mind to develop into the physical world as like a training wheel for that psychic connection of opening a world to the dream world. So what I mean is finding a way to create a portal to the dream world, even if it's small and only accessible by one person, as long as that person is able to be communicated to or collaborated with or influenced at least, is that they have access to physically transporting themselves to the dream world. And I found that shungite is the way to do that. So even though I have the meteorite, the iron meteorite, that I found can access these other astral entities, like meteorites or meteors and things like that, the answer to all of this, I think, is in the dream realm. And it's something I'm very familiar with because I've spent years, my entire life, studying dreams and traveling to them in my mind. So even though it is a very large place, I feel like I understand it like the back of my hand. So I feel like even though it's a very small, simple thing, all I would do is focus on getting more of these shungite materials and doing in religion what they would call making a temple. And I think that's why temples were made, is they acted as these portals or shrines. So really the easiest thing now, it's the fastest, most efficient way to do anything, is I already found the material. I create a shrine made of shungite, and that's it. Excuse me. So all I think that should be done right now is one person in a house making shungite, getting shungite cubes, and getting a large mass of them and stacking them. And that would sound like the stupidest thing you've probably ever heard, is because how would that do anything? Well, how shungite works is that it absorbs negative energy. The problem is that there's so much negative energy in the world. So the more disasterly everything is, the more power is absorbed by the shungite. So it actually means that the more disasterly or the more hopeless everything seems, the more effective shungite is in making a portal. So that means out of all of the thousands of years of things happening, it is the easiest now to make a portal to the dream realm than it ever has been before. And I think it might be possible that it's so easy now that you could literally just get blocks and create it to make it. And it could physically transport you to other realms. And if you physically were able to transport to a different realm, then it is possible through the dream realm, you could actually travel to other realms, physically occupy it, and practically do anything at all in those realms, as long as you abide to their laws. Which, depending on something like whatever you'd use, like a story with the universe or whatever, but obviously you would want to choose a realm that is based on real people or real life interactions, so that you could actually physically be there. But the thing is, if you did use that method, then you would still perceive it as the medium you were exposed to know about it. So hypothetically, if there was a 2D animated TV show that made you aware of this other realm, if you had a portal to the dream realm, you would, and you reached that realm by your memories of this interaction, if you were inside that realm through your memories, you would only be able to perceive anything based on the movements of the media you're using. So that would mean if you're using TV shows or movies, you could only do anything through reenactments. But what that would also mean is that if that's what you're perceiving, it's completely possible, and I think definite, based on what I've been thinking about. I thought it was possible, like just a possibility, but now I think it's definitely, given that everybody's so unaware of the dream realm, even though everybody has a TV and watches TV, is that you can't create new memories using that method. But also, you have no idea what's happening that you're doing. So it means you can affect other things without even knowing that it's real. And that's the flaw of the dream realm, is that you can have no awareness of what you're doing, even if you are actually doing it. So I need to go eat lunch, or dinner, I mean. But, I've been talking so long, my voice is hoarse. It's obviously there are a lot of things happening, but I've wanted to go to the dream realm for so long. I've always had lucid dreams. I always tried doing this as a kid. Was at night I would try to manifest the world around me and make myself appear there, and if I did it enough, I would actually be transported there, like physically. But it was always just out of reach. And what I found is that it's because of disease that's prevented me from doing that. Is it's actually interfering with my ability to dream travel. And video games can actually help me to do that, but the problem is I can only comprehend what's happening inside the game. And I only remember it as the game itself, but fortunately, if I record it, I can actually remembered every single thing that happened, like any time in my life, of the metaphysical interaction taking place. So hypothetically, in the dream world, if I played my own video of an interaction I had of channeling into the screen, and I watched it again, I could replay that. So in the dream world, it'd be like a clone of me doing something. Except it's not actually me. I'm just watching or imagining myself or remembering something I did, but I'm not actually there. And obviously, if one person can do that, you'd imagine with billions of people that it could cause some problems because it's so big. And I always, what was weird about it is that time didn't seem to exist there. It's like I'd have dreams that were like an hour, and I was asleep for 5 minutes. And it's like whenever I would have that happen, where I use my dreams to reach, it seemed like a lucid dream, except like time didn't occur in my reality around me. So it was like it never existed in a way. So that's what's weird about it, is that I couldn't have been lucid dreaming because technically it never even happened. It'd be more like transporting myself out of time. But it's that I need to eat, and I don't have anything else to say. And that obviously the Earth has a lot of issues, and to be honest, there are so many things going on that I don't want to do anything right now, because I already have a job I can do, which is get more shungite, and that's all I have to do. And I have my last day of finals tomorrow, and when I finish that, I won't be going to Bellarmine anymore. And I'll just be doing online school. And I think later I might do some more of the SCP Secrets Laboratory under my username TangoFed in the King's SCP servers, which I used to regularly do. I played like 450 hours in the same servers without ever talking. I never used my microphone in the game. And I never recorded it before though, until now. But I think that's it for now. And I'll see you later.